not all of my viewers know who you are. Can you introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. Many of my viewers know me with my intro when I go YouTube. What's going on? I started making some gotcha gaming videos about 2 years ago. I've always taken kind of the free to play light spender stance with gotcha games. So started with a game called Last Claudia, built up a little fan base from there. And now with the game getting a bit dry, I found Summoners War Chronicles and have just been going since day one, free to play, and kind of just documenting the journey of what that's like. So I do my little live stream, the daily grinds over on my channel, and just happy to be here and talk with you and who you're going to introduce next about what you guys think of the game.
Very nice, and it'll be great to hear what you have to say about that stuff as well. So, Topher Smurf, what's going on, man?
What's up, guys? How are you?
Doing real great. What about yourself? What got you into this game?
Well, I am a new content creator, so just kind of got into the scene. What got me into the games? I've been playing the Summoners War Sky Arena, the original IP game, for a
Hmm.
while now. I think it's like 3 or 4 years now. Nothing crazy. I'm not like Guardian level or anything, but I know a decent amount in that game. One of my good friends, IRL, also is like a Guardian player in that game, so he's kept me going with it. We both decided to switch over to Summoners War Chronicles. Both of us have had a real hard time keeping up with the old game. Um, but yeah, we've been really enjoying Chronicles, and obviously, as fans of the IP, we have a different sense of love for it.
Okay. Did you ever touch the other game, Lost
Centuria.
Centuria? I heard it
Yeah,
had
we
some
did.
like not NFC. What's it called?
Couldn't
The
really commit.
blockchain stuff.
NFT.
NFT.
Yeah, they're supposed to do that. Like I guess with a lot of Com2uS games. I don't know enough about that to comment.
No, that's there was another game similar to this, Nino Kuni, that I meant to try out. Whenever I tell a buddy about something that we got in this game, he says it's effectively a clone of Nino Kuni, Crossworlds, but I didn't touch that game because they advertised NFT all over it
Gotcha.
and didn't really want to get into that. But with this stream, guys, we wanted to talk about the state of the game. So I started about 3 weeks late myself because I was playing my other game full time, and I didn't really have time to check out this game. These other two guys have been playing since day one, both with varying degrees of having to do stuff with family or whatnot. And we just wanted to talk about the journey from day one to where we are now. So, Buddha, you said you were here day one, huh?
I was. It was really random. Like I said, I knew nothing about Sky Arena. I do remember the release of La Centuria, but I didn't try it out or anything. And I was in Discord just saying how I was looking for a new game to try out, and someone randomly DM'd me and was like, "Yo, this game Chronicles just came out today," so I downloaded it and quickly got hooked. I also heard what you mentioned with the Nino Kuni experience comparison. I was familiar with that game, but had never tried it either. So I really liked the individual building of your summoner, the team building aspect with the monsters. Was a Pokemon diehard when I that's the RPG that started it all for me. So collecting monsters, upgrading them, evolving them. Love that aspect. Love theory crafting, and just ran from it since then. Yeah, day one downloaded it and been going strong ever since.
Very nice. Topher, I know you said that you had to take a couple weeks off, right?
Yeah, so I started day one as well. Pretty, grinded it out pretty hard. I would say that I kept up with everybody pretty well. Yeah, we had Christmas break there, or holiday break for about 2 weeks. I was definitely playing on my phone a little bit while we were away, but it's tough. You can't do everything. So fell a little bit behind, but overall, I'm still let's see, level 68 now on my cleave. So I'm still up there. I'm still doing okay. It's hard when you're not spending $1,000, but
You don't say.
yeah, yeah, right.
Well, that is something to talk about the monetization, right? Literally everything in here is monetized as you would expect from a mobile game. But to be fair, a lot of the stuff you can get with crystals, which, if you're willing to put in the time, can be gotten free to play. as well
Yeah.
as they give you the option of summoning with the crystals. I got a little worried when we had things like the we just had one end, the PvP wheel,
Hmm.
because it can roll the 50 crystals, but in the top right hand corner it looks like there's a lock. And I've played games where they don't let you do a lot of things with the free to play, like they give you the crystals, but there's like a difference between the free crystals and the paid crystals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so
Oh yeah.
like I was happy to see that there is no difference here. Uh, my money crystals is just as valuable in every aspect of the game as your free to play crystals are,
Yeah. 100%.
which is
Big
a
fan of
very
that.
big thing. Uh, we were talking about our different spending ranges. I think we all kind of agree that Topher's range is really where you want to be in, which is just the battle passes, right? So
Yeah.
I
Battle
mean,
passes plus maybe $10 or so a month at most.
mm-hmm. Because it's not even, so you spend the $10, you get the champion. So all the ones we've had so far have been pretty stellar. Even the next one's going to be very powerful, Lupinus.
Oh yeah.
Everything else in here is like, way worth the money, as well as, I mean, you get the double on the first set of Curios and double on your Path of Growth stuff. Not to mention when we have events for them going on, like the Lucky Hammer and the Starfish, it even gives you 2x of the hammers or starfish.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I think people forget how important that double is by having the battle pass, especially for these events.
I
I was
mean,
very much on the edge of foregoing the free to play status when looking at those battle passes. Um, but I held strong and
Held strong.
stayed with my resolve. I think a couple of you, both of y'all might have seen when I was like, we're sticking with free to play.
You're the strongest among us.
But super worth. I mean, just to kind of break it down, since you segued into it, we were talking before it's stream. Yes, playing free to play is kind of like playing a free trial status of any game. Then you've got what I consider the full experience, which is kind of where Topher lies, buying these battle passes, buying these real value packs, and then you've got the perspective of Kyger, who has not played day one, but caught up and then I think just well surpassed us in
well,
the land
so
of
something while
well.
we're on the subject of the money is the other battle pass, right? Arena pass. So the interesting thing here is most games do that other one, right? The one pass, do your dailies, you're good. This is a PvP pass, which is kind of weird, right?
I personally think it's good to separate it because Comtuous and Summoners War IP has had a long history of those that are the monster collector types and those that are the PvP types, right? Some people like gotcha games to collect them all. Some people like these kind of games for the PvP aspect of it. I know I'm somewhere in the middle, kind of closer to PvP side. So this arena pass definitely is something that is of value to me, but it may not be of value to somebody else. So
Hmm.
it's nice, I think, that they separate it.
I think it's fine having the two, especially because they're each $10, where most games it's 20, so you're really getting it right there, right? 10 and 10, so you have the 20. But then you have some other games. I believe Knighthood has been around a long time. There's been a lot of others. Raid has messed with the idea of it, Raid Shadow Legends. But they do A/B testing, which is totally different and a lot more scummy. Where they offer you a $5 pack, and then if that same pack shows up for you again because you're already a spender, now it's an $8 pack. Why? That
Days.
doesn't really make sense. So you get people that don't spend for like a month and a half just so the price of their packs go down. Bump
Right.
up Topher's volume. Got it. Uh,
About
Good old audio check.
right.
Gotta love the viewers.
One of my feedbacks I get in my comments. What's up with the audio? I'm trying, guys.
I can
Yeah,
mess with it. Oh no, you're maxed on my end.
you can mess with the desktop audio right there.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
I
can
think
gonna
it
go
was
make
down a
just
all of
little
us a
bit.
little bit louder. I'll turn Buddha down a little bit.
yeah. Whatever you need me to do. Test test.
All right. We'll see what they think. But what I'm glad with the battle passes, they didn't take it a step further, where those games have 3 to 5 different battle passes. Like, okay, we have this battle pass, the Summoner's Pass, which will be focused on your dailies, right? Then we have the PvP pass. They could easily add a raid pass, right?
Right.
I'm glad they didn't go
Mm,
that step.
no, please.
just
So,
just
I
another
mean,
thing.
talking about monetization, how do you guys, what do you, because Topher, you being familiar with Sky Arena and then obviously Come to Us, um, with that, I think a lot of new players, especially free to play players, their fear is that some of the things that games get praised for in the beginning with the generosity or when you think there's a lot of value there, there's a trend where it starts really nice and then more and more paid type of things start to come up. So I never like to shame a company for trying to make money, but I haven't seen the best reputation for Calm to Us. They have a very, you know, standout nickname I've noticed in a lot of chat logs.
Well, the number one guild on our server, Buddha, is Doubt to Us.
Oh,
Um,
okay. That makes a lot more sense.
yeah. So a couple things, and then Topher can give his opinion on it.
Sure.
One, this game specifically has supposedly been in development for almost 3 years.
I mean, it
So
plays really nice, so I believe it.
they need to at least get that money back, right? And their original IP, I did not play Sky Arena, but my alliance leader over here, which were the number 3 guild on this server, is strictly free to play on that game and has been there since day one. And is still, pushing leaderboards over there. So while there is definitely paid things, I think something that I see in a lot of the free to play community, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but they complained about the summoners pass and stuff like that. They're way too far ahead, saying, hey, I can only do my uh, what you call it, 3 curios because I don't have the gems to do more. But as we talked about, if you're willing to put in the time, which is really the issue with it, right? A lot of the free to play players that I've talked to off stream and whatnot, they want to get what the paid players are doing without putting in the time. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's so I hear what you're saying with the comp to us and kind of the history that they have a little bit. I will say that they probably fall in line with some of the other gacha companies and some of their tactics, but at the same time, they also put out a quality product. The Sky Arena game has been one of the longest standing mobile games for a long time now, because of the quality that they put out. Now, I know I'm going to get a little flack for that, but I have enjoyed my Sky Arena experience, and I have been, for the most part, completely free to play, other than people gifting me, Apple gift cards or something, which maybe accounts to like 20, $30 over 3 or 4 years. So it hasn't really helped me in any meaningful way. And I've really enjoyed the original Sky Arena game. Um, there's a lot of free to play players that are very high up on the leaderboards there. That game in particular has a lot more of the turn based strategy aspect to it. Whereas this game, I feel like the paying aspect of it is going to help you out a lot more. We'll see as the game progresses and as everybody starts getting Devilmons and lots more monsters and the PvP meta sort of shakes out a little bit. We'll see. We'll see how the free to play sort of community fares. But so far, it's been very, I think, pay to win heavy in this particular game, Chronicles.
Really?
Well,
That's interesting.
I think a reason why Buddha is so worried about that is I've heard you and Tweaks talk a little bit about the other game you came from and how
Shout out
there's
to
like
Tweaks.
banners and stuff that you can only pull on if you pay for it?
Well, yeah, you kind of addressed that. That was a huge pull for me to this game is that separation that's not here between
Oh,
paid
the
currency
crystals.
and
Yeah.
free currency. Yes. That I think is just in today's gotcha free to play mobile game client, that's like immediate death for a large scale audience. As soon as they see paid identified that clearly, I think your modern day player is just going to uninstall.
Right.
And
So
I
yes,
mean,
I
it's
do
definitely
like the.
not. I'm sorry.
You're fine. I was just going to say I do love that aspect about this game for sure.
And even though we say, I mean, at least people that hear me say it as a spender, that, oh, it's kind of easy, play the market. I understand it's not easy. I know you, Buddha, have had frustrations trying to sell items and it not working. But it really is like a literal stock market. We've had somebody crash it on our server already on a few items where, branches going for 1,500 and all of a sudden they're 3,200
It's so funny.
because of him. And now everyone needs to buy it because they're trying to unlock their classes and stuff. And things take thousands of branches. Uh, so he's ranking in the gyms, and even if you don't want to do that, you can still do the time aspect of all these field events you can do on each of your characters. But I mean, if you're casual free to play, where
Yes.
it's I may hit one or two of these, and I can't really look at the stock market prices, stuff like that, it will probably pretty much suck.
Yes, there's that. There's a stark difference between the casual free to play and the sweaty free to play. I think as Topher kind of was talking about.
Right.
Um, I know a couple players free to play that were able to dedicate so much time in figuring out efficient grinding methods, were able to be there when the time was right, and they can keep up with those pay to play players. So that potential is there. Um, but if you don't cross that threshold to being like just one of those godly efficient gamers, there is a stark difference between where I'm at and then where I think a lot of, even if you just jump up to the battle pass, the 2x rewards on a lot of the current events, it helps your game progression immensely. But I mean, and it saves you time, which I think Kiger, you and I talked about a little bit. Say, I don't think there's anything wrong with paying to save time. I've never been mad about that aspect of a monetization structure.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely true. While we're on, let me mess with the volume right there. I think we're good now. But
We'll jump in real quick. I
go ahead.
just want to jump in on the Exchange Center. Like, I think the Exchange Center is pretty cool right now. My question is there longevity in that source of crystals? As the majority of our servers get a lot of their good gear from their raids, give it a couple months. A lot of people are starting to get master in all of their crafting. Will it be as relevant as it is now? And will people be able to get the crystals out of the Exchange Center that they need to keep refreshing, like, people that are perhaps paying for those crystals?
Uh,
It's a great
Two
question.
things. One, the people who are close to masters are mainly people who are dumping money into the exchange. So they're super far ahead because of such. But I believe the majority of the player base is somewhere around five or six alchemy, and the others about the same. Um, be it you're getting the stuff from the guild shop for cooking, what have you. Processing's obviously the easiest one to get done. And blacksmithing, you can just do subjugation. Second, something I have noticed and have confirmed is the exchange center isn't just your server.
Right.
So right here, I mean, most of us knew that. I just think it's important to mention that they're planning on releasing other servers. I don't know how that's going to play once that happens.
That is true. Yeah, I guess as long as I keep opening new servers, then the Exchange Center will be relevant. Eventually, we would hope that everybody in the world has access to the game. But I guess that could be down the road quite a bit.
Well, some places like the EU and such have stark bans on loot boxes and such, so you have to get specific requirements. Which, while we're still on the topic of money, we talked about the most recent banner before the Beatles, Juno, right here. Her ability, her S3 loss of cause and effect, said it cleansed everybody, removed all harmful effects from everybody. When people used it, it did not. It only did it from one target. That's how it worked on the Korean server, and that's how it worked on our server. But on here, it said it did it for everybody. Now, the moment the banner is gone, it currently says what it needs to say. We said off stream that is kind of scummy. But I brought up an aspect of how, because this is on mobile, mostly it's Apple, but to make any kind of go in the files, make any changes like that, they have to get ahead approval. That's kind of how we get our roadmap, right? The roadmap, they're giving it to us entire January in advance. That's not just for us. That's they already have to give that to Google and Apple. So not that they're giving those specific things, but that they're doing updates on those days. So they already have those things planned out. So they get a little bit of hype by telling us in advance. So they get 2 to 4, depending on the size of the company. This company's probably big enough to get 3, maybe 4 emergency buttons where they can be like, hey, we're taking it down right now because we need to do something. I said I don't believe this is a big enough reason to hit an emergency button. What do you guys think?
Who do you want to start off?
Buddha?
I think with that all in mind, I mean, they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. I think with the ability to possibly recover from that in the long term, no. But I think they got lucky in which that issue wasn't in such a large scale spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
I think in those situations you need to have a really good team that's really aware of the feedback online and what people are getting all worked up about, so they can pull that trigger appropriately. I think if it was flooded in Discord and forums that this change happened and like the narrative was that they are intentionally misrepresenting units to sell them, I think that then yes, it would have been smart to pull the trigger in this situation. But since I don't feel like it was that extreme, they made the right call. I don't know if that answers your question.
What do you think, Topher?
Yeah, no, I agree. This definitely isn't an emergency button one, especially if it's something that's going to make them money, which in this case it probably would. So yeah, no, game-breaking bugs. Your character model's not showing up for like half the server. That kind of stuff is emergency button stuff. No, this is stuff that happens all the time, and it happens. It takes a couple months. They make a little bit of money, and hey, everybody will forget about it next month.
Well, I mean, it looks kind of bad because it was right as the banner ended, but it was also the very first time they did a major update afterwards to really make that change. So, I mean, it looks bad, but it also kind of looks good if you know the backend stuff, but most people aren't going to know the backend stuff, right? Now,
Right.
The question that's in the back of my head is, because it said one thing and did another, do any of these spenders have an argument to say, hey, where's my money?
I do. Yeah, I think definitely that's a restore token for the whole game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody's going to be restoring Juno, but nonetheless, they should have given one.
Yeah, I mean, even though she wasn't as good as advertised, she's still one of the queens going on.
100%.
But let's
For
try to
sure.
get off the money stuff. What do you guys think about the actual events? Like you guys were around when we had the other version of this with Bastet, right?
For sure. Yeah, I was. I mean, they were great, especially for the free to play casual. It all depends on the monsters that they give out, of course. Like, I haven't heard really anything about Fire Mermaid, but I know when Bastet started, and then we got Wind Ifrit shortly after, that allowed a lot of players in all areas to get two very, very good units um, leveled up and ready to go for a lot of meta strategies early. So I thought that was amazing, specifically because you can take the character shards, pump them into certain versions and whatnot. But I think they're great. I think they're fun, engaging, and that's the kind of those are the kinds of decisions I like to see a game starting out with and continuing.
What about you, Topher?
Yeah, I agree. The early game ban or not the banners, these events that they had with Bastet, the Water Desert Queen, and then the Ifrit. Those are awesome events. Obviously, I feel bad for people that have come in later into the game and have not had access to those monsters, or don't have access to the power level that they could have had with those monsters. A lot of people were easily able to max out their books. Even free to play players were able to max out their book levels from the Bastet event, giving them an OP Bastet as well as an OP, Fire One segment.
I was going to
Being able
mention
pour those.
that.
Oh yeah, so you can pour all of those skill ups into Segment, save your Devilmon for other things, and then yeah, and Segment has been meta and will probably remain meta for a while.
Even if there isn't a secondary option, right? So let's take the Wind Dancer wasn't a good a comparable event really. Like it is a 5-star event, but it wasn't to the level of this one. It had less ways to get points and such. But just as an example, as a character, some people kind of like the fire one. But let's say the wind one they're giving us is the only one that matters, right? You max that one out, and then what do? You have a bag full of extra shards. You can get the one you actually want, right, from the exchange shop.
Right.
It's 3 to 1, but I mean it's three that you weren't using. The people in Buddha's situation have to kind of play this smart, because what do you do when there isn't one of these events going on? And that is, in my opinion, quests, repeat quests. You obviously do the calming the disturbance. There may be, depending on what your situation is, some reason to go for a dangerous challenge. Really, these two are the key ones to get those 2 tickets, and you sit on them. I know a lot of people are going to want to immediately use them, be like, hey, I want to get my, Awaken 11 today. But if they just sit on these tokens until the events run around, even the Starfish event that we had right now, right? It doubles up. So the Starfish event has all the same requirements as the Hammer. So I saved a lot of my Path of Growth. I saved all of my Path of Growth tickets. I had almost 600. And I dumped them today to double up on both events.
Yeah, it's good strategy, and that's why we need people like you out here in the community, telling the people what's up.
But I know that's the tough thing, right? Buddha is holding those tokens.
Impulsive players like myself. It definitely is. I think it's all hindsight's always 2020, but can also help us make decisions moving forward. The fact that they're running 2 of these at the same time. Did they do that before? Were they running
Yes.
2 of these kinds of things?
A lot of them end up being like that. The most recent one being the checkerboard for the crystals. That
Yes.
had the 4-leaf clover, and that was going at the same time as I forget what the other thing was, but it was mostly for some resources.
Right.
So it didn't really catch a lot of people's attention. So it wasn't
Mhm.
like to the level, but the same thought process is there.
Yeah. And it's I can't stress how important it is for a free to play player. If you even want to somewhat keep up with current end game material grinds, making smart decisions and exercising some willpower is going to be what you want to do. And it's by having that knowledge that this game likes to have or has in the past had two of these events going on at the same time. So you typically want to look at when information is going to drop and if you can find those points of intersection, and saving until those events happen. Because if you just play this game willy nilly without knowing much, as a free to play player, good luck. God bless your soul.
Even the banners are the same way, right? All of these events and all the banners are 2-week events and banners. So pulling them day one, you can do that. But we just had recently Sekhmet and Juno at the same time intersect, right?
Yeah, talk about a tough call.
We also have Kiger, like you had one of your videos, the Mystical Summon event comes around every now and then, and sometimes it coincides with the last half or the second week of a banner. So, like you said, it'd be better to pull on the Sekhmet banner, second week, so that way you get the benefit of the
you get to choose between the two characters, which you already want to wait to do anyways. But you also get the Mystical Scroll event where you get I know both of you have stated that one is nerfed from the other one that we had in the past. I think it would have made a lot more sense if it actually said Black Friday anywhere on it. But it just said, hey, event.
Yeah, it gave us 3,000, 6,000 crystals or something like
every
that. Every
50 pulls, you got a 10x or 6,000 crystals.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And it was really ridiculous. But I believe the one that we just had, the numbers are a lot smaller, but I think they were more attainable for people towards both of your categories because it was every 20 or 30 instead of every 50.
Right.
Of course, the numbers are 2 scrolls for it, but I mean, that's 2 towards the next 20. So,
yeah,
I mean,
when it gets broken down, it makes sense as to the structure of it. But it was very easy to look at both events without much context and feel that first one was just overloaded compared to the second one. Because I think it set the precedent that that's what many of us were expecting, that weren't reading too much into it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where that disconnect happened, at least for me.
I got you. It's definitely weird they launched the game right around that time, so it looks like, oh, this is what the game is doing.
The standard.
And then, they run 2 other types of events I wanted to quickly touch on. They've ran verification events where they have a banner and then you take a picture of you in the wild or your book of you owning the monster, and then you post it on the official forums, and you get thrown into a hat of whichever one that was. Like, so if you pulled Wind Pioneer, you got thrown a hat for all the other Wind Pioneer people, and they pulled X number of people and sent you rewards. What do you guys think about that kind of event? Topher?
Yeah, they're fun. It's an extra thing. I haven't done any of those events because it's like a lottery thing, right? So I don't play the lottery. So I think this next event, the Beetle Knife verification, I believe they upped the rewards. I'd have to go back and check the last ones.
That would be very nice. What I wanted to point out quickly, before you can give your full answer, because it might inform your answer, is the 3 elements for the Pioneer one. Because I looked at the numbers over there. They picked 4 people for each element and 2 for light and dark. Funnily enough, they only did 1 dark because only one person properly put it up there.
Makes sense.
That's funny.
Yeah, so you're a little bit more than the lottery maybe, but we're still pretty close.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still, you had to title it very, very specifically, which
right.
Someone that just says, hey, put picture up there, they're just going to say, hey, my name or whatever and put up the picture and think I'm done, but you had to put a very specific title and then put very specific information in there. I think they need to knock down on those requirements. And the other kind of event that we had, which was a lot better, was the quizzes. They've done that a couple times now, right, Buddha?
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been doing the quizzes for a while now. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I see the value. I have never been one to participate in the social media promo stuff.
Now here's my question. With the codes we get as well as those, would you be prone to do it if you could do it within the game?
I think that would increase the chances of me doing it significantly. Yeah, if it was all centralized. But yeah,
put
just
in
the
a code.
thought. Yeah, exactly. Doing the promo codes is great. I do that every time.
But you have to go to a third-party website, come back to
Yes.
your account to get your number, go back
Yep.
to the third-party website, and then go get the code. That's just a bunch of
Yeah,
steps.
I'm too preoccupied with just trying to do the daily requirements, so it's just not happening for me.
What are your thoughts, Topher?
Yeah, no, the quiz events are they're fine, right? Again, it's an extra piece, an extra. I played Genshin a little bit, right? And they had a similar thing where you had to go to another website and click the thing daily, and you got like 20 primo gems or something, which is like, I don't know, 100 crystals here. And I have this stuff up every single day in the morning when I check it, so I'm able to kind of do it. But yeah, for the casual play, I hate going back and forth. I'm an iOS mobile as well, so I hate having to go out and do this, especially when I'm on my phone. The value's there, and I understand. It's same thing with the Sky Arena game. Any codes that we have, anything like this, has to go through a third-party website, and it can't be done in the game. So it's something with the Apple's security or whatever.
Gotta love it. Got to love it. Topher had a subject he wanted to bring up, which was we just had the big balance update for champions and monsters. You want to go ahead and kick that off for us?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I definitely have always leaned a little bit more to the PvP side. I think mostly because my good friend Agent Smith, who I had on one of my videos earlier, he's very high level Sky Arena PvP player. G2 regularly and hopped into G3, which is the top of the top hundreds. So he's always kept me engaged and interested in the PvP side. So that part of this game is what really interests me the most, and not so much just being better than somebody else, because that's not going to happen, but it's more of just the team building and hey, this monster does this, and assassins go after range units, right? That kind of stuff is really interesting.
That's one of my most watched videos.
Yeah, should be. It's very useful information for PvP.
But so let's talk about the balance real quick. Just
Yeah.
all three of us play Cleef.
Oh God.
Just to start off, why did each of us pick Cleef? I will say myself, I picked Cleef because it was the male character. Buddha?
Same.
Topher?
Leaf is the Giga Chad.
The Giga Chad. Does he have? Let me ask. Does he have relevance? Did these summoners have relevance in Sky Arena?
0.
Okay, so they were made for this game.
I mean, we know that there are summoners, but Sky Arena doesn't really show you any summoners. Like, they show you a couple within the early story, but we forget who they are.
I gotcha.
Now, two quick things before we jump into the actual conversation of the 3 units. One is Topher just said there's the 6 classes in the game, and that number 6 is the important part because we have 3 summoners. So I could definitely see, not next week, next month or whatever, but down the line getting, throughout the life of this game, getting the other 3, allowing you to have a character of each class. Because right now, people have a lot of thoughts of, well, Cleef as a warrior, he's obviously the tank, right? But that's not always true because he has the fire weapon, which can be damaged. But we also have units that do the same thing. Take the Chimeras, for example. Was it Tayor, the water one, is a very tank in your face. But when you look at the dark one, he's going to kill you.
Hmm.
He's literally going to do the damage and actually walk in your face and kill you. Which would ideally be a warrior, but that's what comes into play with this weapon type. Just with the same thing with Orbia is, I think, the biggest conversation. I've had people run some numbers, and until you get to the top tier, like top 50, Orbia is going to lag behind units in damage. A lot of people think Orbia is the nuker, she's the damage, but really it's her versatility, right, Topher?
Yeah, I would agree, especially with some of the changes that they just recently made with I believe it was an addition of a strip on one of her weapons,
No,
which makes her.
on Kina they took it from strip 1 to strip 2.
Okay, was that what it was? Yeah, so far Orbia has been falling behind, and I think some of that could just be the meta, and the meta is a very brawly, tanky, healy, sustained sort of meta right now. I would love to see some higher damage, fast cleave sort of gameplay at some point, and there's a little bit of that here and there. That's something that we loved in Sky Arena, was that we had slow teams, we had CC teams, we had cleave teams, we had all kinds of different types of teams that we could build that did different things. And here it's just the beefiest characters you can get last as long as you can, and that's kind of the meta.
Do you think a lot of that is just some of those characters are the ones that we've literally been given, and those are the banners we've had so far?
Part of that, obviously, early on, everybody's running, Theo, Bastet, Sekman, those kind of things. But as the game has progressed, we've gotten away from some of those, and now the characters that we are getting are some of those beefier characters, Juno, Teor, those sort of style characters.
Well, a lot of these higher level people, as well as these tier lists that are running around, obviously, you take all tier lists with a grain of salt. But Juno's way at the top of that. That's one of the banners that we've had. I've seen Vanessa way up there, which is a battle pass character. So I mean, and I kind of see it as a lot of the ones being used, minus some LD stuff that I haven't touched with because no one gets LDs.
Right.
I mean, I'm seeing mostly the 2 Desert Queens, whatever revivers you have access to, and supports.
Yeah, 100%. That the revive meta is huge, which is, we can talk about specific monsters later. But we'll see Wind Mermaid, or not Wind Mermaid, the Fire one actually is probably going to see a little bit of play because of that unrecoverable. So, or not the unrecoverable, the unrevivable.
Well, so we had the changes to all the summoners. Kina got a buff all around. I had a little bit of worry with Kina because she's very specific with her gameplay. For anyone that doesn't know how she works, is she, with her basic attack, she puts stacks on herself, and if she has at least 5 stacks, her first skill does something different. And then if that skill does something, then the second ability will play off of that first ability. Cleef is very much the same way, that if you hit the first ability, generally your second ability follows suit with that first ability. But my issue with her was summoners don't have an attack speed. You can't get an attack speed stat on your equipment or whatever to go to your summoner, which that caused a lot of issues with Kina's, because you want to attack faster so you can get stacks on yourself so you can hit your first ability with the bonus more often. So that's not fixed anywhere, but what they did do was they buffed the individual skills so that when you do hit that, it's more impactful. Orbia got kind of a side grade, like she got a couple downgrades, but she also got some upgrades, even though they don't really sound like it. Most notably, the her first skill on her fire extends burns, which can be very powerful in Seal, for example.
Oh yeah.
Khalif, he got a little bit shafted with the I actually think it's kind of a side grade with the Endurer. It might be a
Yeah.
controversial thing,
Debatable.
but I get a lot of matches where I go from 70 to 0 before this change, right? Like they just boom, you're dead. Now you have to deal with the Endurer.
Right.
Even though there's all these strips and stuff all over the place, which there's one unit or keyword I want to talk about once we get there. But I think that was a very interesting change. And then he got a buff as well. His fire weapon. Have you guys messed with that lava attack at all?
I haven't
Okay.
messed with it too much, but because I just started playing this morning a little bit, just doing Tower of Ascension. But yeah, no, it definitely Cleef being sort of that warrior character. A lot of people are building him as a damage Cleef, which is kind of fun and what I like. That heavy crit damage, defense, and attack. So this definitely kind of puts him more into that warrior category where he is supposed to output a lot of damage. He's not supposed to be, the tank that's unkillable per se.
Mm-hmm. Now, the big change I think is the third skill, the shield, because now it gives you an attack up, which level 1 attack up is 50%. That's 50% more damage coming through all over the place. I think that's very, very important because we've all said that Cleef doesn't really add anything to a raid, right? With water, he can add 3 different debuffs. Sure, 2 of them being ones that no one really messes with. So you get to boost up things like Naomi or Crow. But now he has some thought to him where you're like, hey, do I want to spam abilities or do I want to swap to fire real quick to get an attack up and then swap back to something else to get something going? I think if they make more balance changes like this, Cleef might actually be able to add something to a raid. What do you think, Buddha?
I think it would be really interesting if I don't know if you guys know anyone who did this, but maybe took summoner. I'm kind of branching off from what you asked me, but I'll come back to it. If they took each summoner and actually did some damage calcs, like just with the summoner solo, to see where they actually stand relating to like Firecleave getting his buffs. I'm interested in like the actual numbers that he puts out now. But yeah, I'm always going to be a fan of efforts to create variety, no matter where you're playing in the game, so that it's very easy to identify. Okay, if I run this kind of setup with this summoner and this weapon, this is the kind of strategy that I'm building up off of, right? I think it's always a deterrent when you're trying to read something or figure out something and then build around it, but it's kind of confusing and the results in your testing don't really make sense. I know that happens to me all the time. Some people are just better at testing than others, but yeah, I'll always be a fan of balancing a game in that way and consistently making that effort.
Well, I think the issue with Cleef specifically is the other 2 units care about specific units being on their team, right? Kina does revives herself. She heals units. She puts out wide range buffs, so she really cares about what units are on her team. Orbia wants a front line so she can sit back and just do her thing, whereas Cleef just wants units with him. He doesn't really care about what units are with him, just that he has units.
Yeah, and I think that I've seen a lot of other players talk about with their Orbia, right? Having the new water beetle that just dropped, right? He's just a really good taunter, which is what you want because you want someone drawing that attention away. I think if Cleef did a better job at taunting than he does, maybe he'd stand out in that area because he's able to. Um, but I don't know how you guys would
But
agree with that.
that's the question, right? There's 6 classes. Is he a guardian, or is he a what you call it, warrior?
Warrior.
Right. Yeah, and that's kind of what you were talking about in the beginning. When I looked at his kit initially, I deemed him as a guardian more so than I did a warrior, if I'm looking at those kind of metrics to judge off of. That was my impression.
Well, that's also something you were talking about in your stream earlier today, is that you want another character, right? Um,
Yes.
what if there is a, Cleef gets more tweaked and whatnot and ends up being the warrior summoner, and then we have an actual like plate mail. I'm the Giga Chad tank guy. Um, I think that will solidify. That's what I think is so interesting, because you have mage, which is what the issue with mage is. The wording of mage is kind of interesting because it says they nuke, but it also says there's other mages that debuff. So Orbia is a mage, but she's not the mage that people are wanting, is what I think is going on there. Where we can have what people are wanting is something like an assassin when they play
Yeah.
their Orbia, from what I've seen.
Or like you mentioned, I'm a fan of introducing new characters and new roles. I just think it keeps things fresh. Obviously, it would be a new character to reset the entire storyline, which is something I love about playing all the different summoners. So yeah, kind of digging, finding that niche and digging into it. Like I said, more clarity with how you're using a summoner, how you're building them, and what you're expecting. If that's all being met, I just think it's a net positive for everyone.
Mm-hmm. It would be nice if it said somewhere what, at least in their mind, which class these units are. Would really help, in my opinion. Now,
Yeah.
as far as the units, Topher, were there any individual units you wanted to touch on?
I've got it pulled up here. There were a couple standouts. I think the Chiwu, the Fire Pioneer, actually had a really good change, making him more like Segment, to where he's doing the damage after the strip now, which is going to make him better, obviously, against those cleaves that pop up the Endure at the end there. So I think he's going to fit in a similar place that Segment always has, and he was already pretty good, the Fire Pioneer there. Water Archangel was actually a pretty big standout for Agent Smith and I. He was already a very good Lulu slash Annabelle, the cult girl. Sorry, I'm trying to bring out the real names of them. But he also does now a defense up, which is actually in line with the Sky Arena. So that defense up is really cool because it gives him something else, but it also is very relevant in this particular meta. So I think we're going to start seeing a lot of Water Archangels.
Well,
Um,
if you have the option on a Water Archangel, or the, I know we talked a little bit off about LDs are impossible, but the Light Archangel,
oh yeah,
uh, Buddha, get this, his passive is if you attack anyone but him, he smacks you in the face.
yep.
The counterattack.
Yep.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, that's why I've heard a lot about Wind Monkey King. That counterattack aspect, I'm real interested in.
Yeah,
I feel like the counter.
All the Monkey Kings on their basic have something interesting they do. The wind one just randomly will pop you for 1,000,000 damage. The water one will randomly strip. Um, they're all kind of interesting in that way.
Yeah, the Monkey Kings have always been some of my favorites from the Sky Arena game. Just I've always loved their kits, the variety and the creativity in their kits. And obviously, anything with a skill one utility or some sort of like skill one passive or whatever is always an S tier in my book for
Mm-hmm.
the most part.
You need somewhere to put your attack speed runes.
Yeah, and it's not
Uh,
Karambit anymore.
so, as far as units themselves, I think the big hot topic everyone will want to talk about is the Beetles. Um, I did some testing. There's a few things I still want to look at. I'm gonna ask you guys what you think. Water Beetle. I'll bring it up so that people can see what we're talking about. Book, monster, water. Where's that fat boy? So his passive, right? That's the thing people care about. Beetle Knight becomes immune and provoke. Sure, whatever. When the summoner takes death-inflicting damage, ignore the damage. Then applies Endure to the summoner and recovers the summoner HP. It's based off the HP. So ignore lethal and Endure. There's two parts of that I want to look at. One, I'm going to ignore the lethal real quick because that's a separate thing I want to look at. But Endure, right? So we have, everyone's using strips. So going into the meta we have right now, that Endure itself isn't really going to matter. What I think needs to be talked about is people are using things like Wusa and whatnot, which does a immunity and a continuous heal. I think, especially let's take Cleef, Kina, who can put positive effects on themselves, are very, very important because a lot of these things is strip 1 or strip 2. There are some strip all, but if you can just put some bullshit buffs on yourself, maybe they strip that besides this, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. That's a big thing in Sky Arena too, right? If it only has a chance to strip one effect or two effect, the more beneficials you have. They could strip the good one or they could strip the BS one, like you said. So yeah, well, and also with strippers, like you ban them, right? If you're reliant on that Orbia Sir Neptune combo, then you as the opposing summoner are going to have to bring in two strippers, because if you don't, they're just going to ban that stripper and Orbia is going to stay alive.
Now, ignore lethal damage. This is the part that I did have some testing on, and I also tested this Endure thing because the way I tested it was on how do you pronounce that guy's name? The scientist guy.
I say Shurekli.
Shurekli.
Yeah.
He has Endure when he gets low, right? There are obviously you have the mermaid thing, but there's also some other effects. Two that I was scrolling through and saw earlier was something like Linda right here with her comet summoning. Unrevivable upon death, ignores the target, death denial effect. That doesn't make sense when you read it, but specifically, this means it ignores Endure. It should ignore what Sir Neptune just said, as well as it ignores soul protection, which is revive on death.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of people are saying. Like Linda, the Mystic Witch, a couple other units. Essentially, they just swapped out Karambas Lupinus. They swapped out for some other units. So we still have Mara, the Amazon. Yeah,
her
we still
basic
have some very viable
and
units.
all of her abilities do it.
Yeah, which is crazy. So she is a 4-star, which gives her not as much of a place, but certainly a place.
Well, she's also, I'm sorry, Buddha, but she was also an account level pass.
I know.
Is it still active on your account?
I believe so.
It should be. I think that just stays there.
Oh, I don't have it because I already bought it and claimed everything.
I guess I haven't claimed everything yet.
Yeah, it will always just
Probably
be
why.
there to taunt me.
I only bought the first one.
But I mean,
some amount of value.
Even her basic percentages are higher than most people. Normally 200 is the max. She's 231 and has the unrevivable, ignores all the stuff. So is Neptune even going to do anything with the units we have? That's the question.
I think he still is. Again, this is a very heavy pick ban PvP sort of meta, right? So it's going to come down to the monsters that you bring versus the monsters that you take away from them versus the monsters that you ban, right? So there's a lot of aspects to the pick ban system that Sky Arena has had for years now, and it's been a crucial part of winning. You can take someone with my account versus a G1 account. which is significantly higher than mine. And somebody that knows what they're doing with the pick ban system can make, a lot of progress, even with lackluster runes, right? Or power.
Now, while we're still on that, then we can get on to some of the other units. Uh, I know everyone's saying that Orbia really wants this beetle, but I think Kina's being kind of overlooked on it. And why I say that is her passive right here. When you use a skill, recover HP, blah, blah, blah. Is this the one that gives the shield, the invulnerability? Cast a skill, no. No.
Yeah, I'm not caught up on Kina's skills as much.
Continuous recovery. Here it is. If a team member is defeated, invincibility for 6.4 seconds to everybody else. So they go on you, kill you with Sir Neptune, then what, they kill the Neptune or strip you or whatnot. But if they kill the Neptune, what happens if, because this is the stuff that I still need to test because it's really hard to test this. You kill my Neptune, I Dark Kina revive it. Do I get another life if I die?
That is a good question. From what I've seen in the past, I feel like passives are on a cooldown outside of the death. I don't have any testing on that. I just from experience, I feel like the passives tend to have their own countdown outside of death, even if they get revived. But I would imagine this is the same. We'll have to see.
If any of your monsters die, your team gets a 6.4 second invincibility, which is pretty huge in my opinion. But I think I know everyone around the water cooler is talking about Orbia. I think Kina's worth a look is what I'm trying to point at here.
100%. I think Kina's going to be really strong. And a lot of people were talking about how most of her buffs were just like AoE, like range. Like the majority of her buffs were just like increasing the range.
Yeah, no one liked to play her because when you used an ability, it was just wonky.
Especially in Brawl or even Arena, when the arena is so large, you've got your summoner over here, you've got your monsters over here, and just it never hit them. So I think her area of effect range is actually going to play a big role, more than people realize, because now every single one of those skills is going to land, and it's going to do what it's supposed to.
And they're not skills that you should ignore. Mainly it's the second skill on all the things. But look, attack speed up on the entire team. I believe the fire one is attack up on the entire team. Accuracy up, remove harmful effects. This is literally what we're talking about right here. She does a AoE strip.
Or remove harmful effects. So that would be harmful. A cleanse, right?
Yeah, cleanse. Sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, no, you're right. And you get your weapon cooldown passive up, and you can be swapping between weapons.
Yeah, it's
Kina will be an active player or an active summoner.
It's very, very.
It seems like they've moved all the summoners in that direction. Orbia being the most active summoner at first, right? At least you really had to know what to do with her to get any value. Cleef was just brain dead. You just sit there and press buttons.
Yeah, you just pick whatever element you want and just play into them.
Yeah. Love it.
Were there any other ones you wanted to go over?
Let me pull those back up, see if there was anything else that stood out to me.
It was a very long list.
It was, and I like that to some degree. I like that they're taking an active stance in balancing. They're recognizing that there's a lot of monsters that need work, and they're making those changes as quick as possible. In Sky Arena, there's monsters that have been dead for years. So if we can revive some monsters, that would be nice.
We also said off stream that it's nice they made all these changes, mostly buffs from what I saw, which is really the direction I want to see stuff. There were some nerfs, sure, whatever, but it was mostly buffs. But even though they're mostly buffs, it really would have been nice. They're obviously not going to give us, 20 reset stones for, I know it's more than 20, but assume the number 20 reset stones, but giving us 2 or 3 for such a huge balance change like that seems pretty good in my opinion of what should have happened.
Yeah, no, if they gave us some more reset stones, it probably would be good, because I feel like playing around with different monsters is what brings a lot of joy for a lot of players. And right now we can't do that, right? We're so focused on, as we've said in our videos, right? Our top 5, 6, 7 monsters, 5 stars or whatever, and we just can't play. No fun, right? Only these monsters.
Well, even Buddha is the free to play, just getting most of his dailies done. If you reset all your stuff right now, how many Devilmon do you think you'd have? Would you be able to?
Maybe enough to max one Nat 5 and start my second.
I mean, even the last one we had was 7, right? That's a lot.
Yeah.
And if you,
But
if
how
you,
much does it take for one Mon if you're going from 0?
It really depends
Fill-ups?
on the monster. Most of the 5s are like 4, 7, 7, 2. But you ignore the first levels of each, so 3, 6, 6, 1, so 6, 12, 13, 16.
Yeah.
I think we have to remember that this game, along with the Sky Arena game, is meant to be a longevity. It's meant to be a journey, right?
Mhm.
We look at all these monsters. We only have 5 or 6 usable monsters in PvP or whatever. I've played Sky Arena for over 3 years, and my buddy's played Sky Arena for nearly 6 years, right? And you amass Devilmons in a 6 years time, right?
Mhm.
So if anybody decides to stick around with the game, they will be up there, right? They will have everything maxed. They will have everything 15 aid, right? We'll have it. It's just going to take some time. And I think we're only a month into the game, and we've made a lot of progress, and they've been very generous with some of these events. But we can't necessarily expect it to be right away. We have all of these monsters.
Mhm. I do have a little bit of speculation on it just popped in my head on the whole being released in other regions. Is I think they're holding off until we're closer to Korea. I hope that's not the case. I hope they just release them, let them go through the same kind of events we did, let them have the same experience. I do think it's nice they gave us that 5-star selector, which included all the event monsters. So you were able to get one copy of the event that you did miss. I thought
Except
that
for
was...
Windifrit. They didn't give us Windifrit. They gave us Vanessa,
Who was
which
the
was Battle
fire?
Pass.
Oh, Vanessa. Okay.
She was Battle Pass, and
Okay.
Jasoon was Event,
Yeah.
and Bastet was Event.
Mm-hmm. Well, if there was one of each element, then I mean, you kind of have to pick.
True. Right. That's true if it's one of each element. Hopefully they'll do that with the future, Battle Pass, Annabelle, and some of the future event monsters. Because FOMO's real. It'll make people quit games.
The only thing I really need them to do is lighten the grip on the LD stuff. Now, we already have over here the exchange shop, and this can roll any monster. That's awesome, but it can only roll the 3 elements. You literally cannot get LD from the shop.
Yeah. And LDs have always been, that high price commodity in Sky Arena as well. There's players that have been playing consistently the events for years and still have not gotten their first LD5. So I only have 2 after 3 years of playing. I already have 1 in this game, so it says something, perhaps at least in my experience. But I think it's a little more generous in this game with the scrolls and with the LDs, but not by much. So LDs will always be strong. They will always be for the whales. This is kind of the nature of the game.
Well, you want to go over 1 or 2 more of those characters, and we can go on to something else?
Yeah, sure. Well, if we want to talk about broken characters, it's going to be our new LD Beetle, the Light Beetle.
Good lord.
Certidius or whatever his name is. Sounds like he is.
Certides.
It's Certidius, yeah. Sounds like he's pretty broken. He's pretty awesome, but you see a lot of light darks. I've been watching one streamer in particular, Storyteller over there, watching his arena gameplay. You see a lot of LDs, which makes sense. I believe LDs in this game should be strong, right? It is. If you pull one, you don't want that horrible feeling like, wow, I finally pulled an LD and they suck, right? I think LDs should be strong, but maybe not as broken as some of them are.
Just even on his first ability right here, charge, damage based off of attack and defense. That's, I mean, you're already good at that point. Remove a beneficial effect. Awesome. If they don't have a beneficial effect, block beneficial effect.
Yeah, I think both of those are some of the most strong abilities you can have. Stripping is huge in this game, and blocking, obviously, because not a ton of cleansers out there, right? So block beneficial effects is pretty strong.
And then that was just on the first skill, spammable 3 mana. The one that made Buddha go wild earlier was Iron Shield right here. Increase the beneficial effect level by 2 of all effects on them, and then give a level 2 continuous recovery.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of buffing and debuffing monsters so you can just nuke things down, and that seems like a very nice effect.
You have to be a little bit careful when it comes to effects like this because it can sound awesome like, hey, I have a level, that gives me a level 4 attack. But there's certain stat bonuses when we look at them are way bigger bonuses. So, I mean, I don't have Cleave open, but the level 1 attack is 50%. Level 3 is 70%, so you're only getting 20% for that extra. But there are other stats. I think crit damage scales 80 to 120 when you do that plus 2.
Exactly.
Which is really, really big. So
yeah, so it just seems like something you can play around with and have fun. That's the curse of the free to play, and me specifically, is that I get to try and theorize a lot with these monsters when I review them, but I will 99% never be able to actually give experienced knowledge. So,
well, what you can do is a lot of the bigger spenders, whatnot, are primarily only going to touch the 5s, right? The 5 stars. And as we talked about a little bit off screen, there's some 3s and 4s that are better than some, 5 stars. One of my favorites right now is this guy right here. Yeah. Kugo. Lava barrier, 35% don't take damage.
A whole evasion, like what, 2 evasion sets?
I mean,
and that, and that's for the skills, obviously, which are dominating for sure.
Most of the things you're going to die to is just that sucks.
Yeah, and you just have to find your workarounds as a free to play, because obviously there are 3 and 4 stars that are super potent. You'll find a lot of veterans use them, recommend them, but you're going to have to still come up with a 5-star team to pump materials into to meet certain bonus requirements for a lot of end game content. And then you can swap those monsters out according to the team and mechanics you want to run, because you don't lose that bonus after you're in the dungeon.
Yeah.
But it's just knowing that.
I've seen Barcode speculate that that's a bug and it's going to go away in the future. I think the exact opposite. And why I think that is we have in all the raids there's a starting location, right? There's especially in Seal, where there's a countdown in the like a 20-second countdown in the beginning that gives you the time to make all those changes and whatnot. I think that's an intended purpose. They want you to say, hey, you're high enough, you should be able to clear this content. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's an important aspect of the game to keep players that shouldn't be doing certain raids, right, not being in those lobbies per se, and they're going to get kicked, right? If they're 50, 70, 80 power lower than what they should be for that bonus, they're probably going to get kicked. But yeah, the fact that if they can meet the bonus, then they probably have an okay set of monsters, even if they go down after they switch them out in the beginning, right? Like you were saying.
Yeah, I want to go back to what you said. What did Barcode think is a bug? I didn't quite understand.
The whole bonus, going in and swapping. He speculates that it's a bug that you keep the bonus effect once you swap.
Oh, so that's not supposed to be intentional.
That's what he believes. I believe the opposite.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Interesting. I'll be interested to see why he thinks that, just maybe.
I
I haven't
originally
seen him
didn't
go
like
into
it.
it, but it'll be interesting to hear.
I
Yeah.
originally didn't like the bonus aspect a lot, because it kind of
It's
got away
gating
from the
people.
create. Yeah, it's gating people. One, it's gating creativity, which is something that was really fun with Sky Arena. Was that there's all kinds of crazy, wacky, creative teams that people make with random 3 stars and 4 stars, and that was awesome content. That was awesome to watch people make these wacky teams and experiment. But the bonus just felt like you have to get to that bonus or else, right? You can't play around with 3 stars. Sorry. But if they do keep this aspect where as long as you hit the bonus, you can swap out to a different presetted team, and you can still try your wacky team if you want to. So I'm okay with it the way it is. It kind of does gatekeep lower level players, but maybe it should.
I mean, we've all experienced doing a shadow castle, and someone that's 400 k power just keeps autoing the boss, right?
Oh
Yeah,
Lord.
Just because they are the power doesn't mean they know what they're doing, but it's more
true.
likely.
It is true.
Buddha, was there anything you wanted to talk about?
I mean, I think we covered a lot of good topics in this podcast. Nothing in particular that I didn't bring up. Did I say anything pre-stream that I didn't mention yet that you guys know? My memory's not great. I'm just gonna be honest.
uh, I will check real quick. Um, be around. Not that I see. You may have mentioned something on your stream earlier. But just I know you were saying in your Discord, Cleve keeps getting nerfs as far as the Korea stuff. And it
Yeah.
may make you want to look at a different game.
That's yeah. I like to make exaggerated statements to see how people respond and whatnot. I think it's a fun thing to do on the internet, but there is an element of truth to it. I some players don't care the gender of their who they're playing as, but I think there is a dynamic of players who kind of envision themselves as the person that they're playing as, and there's other people who are detached and can play as however. So if Cleve is the only male character and I want to feel that immersion, but then the character I'm playing at is just getting nerfed to the ground to the point where it's like, oh, well, if I was Orbia, this wouldn't even be an issue. If I was Kina, this wouldn't even be an issue. And then I don't, yeah, that can drive me away from the game. But I know you
Especially when you
jumped
have
in
to
and,
put literal months
oh
into
yeah,
books
yeah, there's no
to upgrade their skills.
there's no resto token for summoners, right? So
Nope.
if you're restarting, it's like going back months of progress, exactly. So it's discouraging for sure. But yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting what you brought up in response to me saying when we look at Korea, we can get a general sense of possible things to come, but I think they've done a good job of kind of introducing things with a bit of its own uniqueness with the
Hmm.
North American client so far.
Even in the
So you can't
last
give,
yeah, even in the last couple updates, right? We have
yep,
Seal that
yep,
launched with 6 players over here, has 12 over there. I think they just recently went to 6 as well. But even just the Beetle Knight story, right? Over there, I don't know if you knew about this, Topher, but they got 10 shards. We got the full unlock.
Yeah, we kept seeing that in my guild Discord, and I was like,
yep,
what? That can't be right.
yep. So you can't put too much emphasis on what Korea is getting and then think that's exactly what's going to happen here because the evidence proves that's not going to be the case.
Even the
However,
go
I
ahead.
did also see a comment in my Discord that they may have already introduced some of those Korea changes in our update.
I mean, I heard the Sekhmet stuff. I haven't seen the numbers to know if that's true or not. But we have from that storyteller guy. He put out a list of what the battle pass characters were in the Korea server. I forget which one it was in his list. I think it was a fire unit, but we're getting Lupinus, the green magic knight, next. So that's interesting. We have the beetle, and then we're getting the heart, the harp, the I don't know.
Yeah, the Heart Magicians or whatever
Yeah,
they're called.
that character
LDs.
next. Whereas on Korea, they got beetle, and then they got. I was expecting the pop up to pop up in my face like it always does when I open this. Where's
The
that?
Devil
Where's that?
Hunter.
Yeah, the fucking the hunter guy. Where's that thing?
Oh yeah,
I didn't buy
They
it.
showed the dark
Demon
one.
Hunt.
Did they get rid of the offer because they were worried about the fucking
Yeah, it's the Demon Hunter, Vampire Hunter looking guy.
vampire hunter? Yeah, and
Yeah, from what I
that's a
saw,
big
it
thing over there is the vampire hunter.
I was watching Nemesource as another content creator. They made a list too. It was Bastet or no, the Battle Pass monsters. We were supposed to get Tetra, which is the water mermaid, and then Brandia, which is the fire polar queen. I believe is the one
Man.
you were thinking of. But yeah, we're getting the exact opposite. We're getting Lupinus now. So I wonder if that was planned or if that was changed. Based off of what's happened in Korea, based off what's happened here.
Mm-hmm. I mean, especially like I said, if you see anyone listening to this, if you see any of these tier lists from the Korea people saying this is what it looked like for us around that time, it'll be way different because of changes like this, as well as if you look at their stuff right now, it'll be based off of Beetle, which we just got, as well as specifically that Vampire Hunter, because he's supposed to be the water Vampire Hunter does strips on his basic, I believe.
Yes.
So I mean, he's like the counter, and he came out right after the Beetle, and we don't have him at least until February.
Yeah. More and more cleave counters.
Love it.
Well, I mean, there's other characters like over there. They just got the Hell Ladies, whatnot. Something to look forward to is we obviously got the Medusa raid coming, but they also, I haven't got a chance to look too deep into it, but they have a guild raid over there with a guild raid shop, which will
Sounds
be very,
fun.
very interesting to see. I hope it's not. I was a little worried with Seal because if it was a daily thing, it would be kind of tough. Knocking two out Monday, Tuesday, whatever's fine, but having to coordinate my entire life around, hey, my people can be ready at 7 or whatnot, and just be like, hey, we have our regular group ready at 7 every single day for every single thing. That's taxing, especially when people ideally are playing other games as well, right?
Yeah, I love this trend of putting the raids down to just 3 a week, and you can knock them all out in the same day if you want to. I love this trend. It takes away from the chore of the game, which is a great thing. You don't want to feel like the game's a chore and then you're missing out on things. So I think they're going to do that with Naraka. I think you said that as well. They're probably going to do that with Naraka, and eventually they'll probably do it with Medusa, right? And so I like that. I like being able to have your core group, and you hang out with them on Monday or Tuesday or whatever, get everything done. It's awesome.
They're also leaning in that direction with the PvP stuff, right? I said this in my video. They upped the challenge arena max from 10 to 30. You still get 10 on reset, and they raised the max of brawl from 5 to 20, but you still get 5 on reset. So if you're like, man, my Tuesdays and Wednesdays are rough, I can skip Tuesday and Wednesday, but I still have all my stuff.
Yeah, so I think it's a good direction. We'll see how matchmaking goes, and see if it's still, a good matchmaking time. Right now, it's been very fast, so it shouldn't hurt too much.
Very, very nice. Well, we've gone on a little bit, guys. About an hour and a half, pretty good. I think we covered a lot of things. Definitely, both of these guys, links to their channels will be in the description down below. Depending on the feedback to this live stream, we may do more in the future. Just quick spitballing. What do you guys think? Whenever they do an update, we talk about the update.
Yeah, man, especially one of these big updates. I enjoy the sit downs. I did one with Agent Smith. I enjoyed that sit down. It's a good time chatting with friends, playing games with friends, and talking about games with friends is the best part of games. So,
Yeah,
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That's why I started this, is not only to document my progression in the game, but to show the learning process that can also teach others. So,
of course. And I mean, I like these podcast style things because I drive a lot for work. So a lot of what I do is listen to podcasts and such. So I think a lot of what we talked about, they could just listen to us while driving and whatnot, and they won't be missing anything on the screen, which I think is important. I think a lot of social media and stuff is leaning in that direction, which I enjoy. Um, but yeah, be sure to pass this video around. Make sure it gets likes, comments, and whatnot. Because if this does well, we'll definitely think about doing this more. Maybe on someone else's channel next time. We'll let you all know. But you guys want to say anything before we head out?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, man.
Of
yeah,
course.
thanks for hosting.
And until next time, guys.